I'm hopeful. I got faith, and I've been praying, and I'm just praying that we find him safe, and that's all I want. We can deal with the consequences later, but I just want him to be home. I just want to know that he's safe and he's alive.
That was the mother of missing person Christopher Miller. Sitting next to her, his fiancee, who is pregnant and expecting their baby in May of this year. Christopher Miller disappeared over 100 days ago, last seen by law enforcement. What's going on with this case? Why is the family so frustrated? It's time to turn on the searchlight for Christopher Miller. Welcome back to Brainscratch Searchlight. I'm John Lordan. Thank you so much for spending some time with me here today and for caring about these cases like I do. Let's go ahead and dive right in and learn more about where this is taking place. Janesville, Wisconsin is where Christopher Miller eventually stopped. His vehicle basically became disabled, and he had the police hot on his tail. For some reason, he ran away, and they did not pursue him, at least from what we can see on dash cam footage, which we'll see some clips of here today as well. But he was on his way home. He was doing a drive back from Illinois, heading back home to Madison, Wisconsin. Janesville is a city in Rock County, Wisconsin, United States. It's the county seat and largest city in the county. As of the 2020 census, the city had a population of 65,000 people. This traffic stop happening somewhere around 2 a.m., so probably not a lot of people out there in terms of witnesses, but we are going to hear certainly some people that notice some things with this case. Let's go ahead and do a quick stop at NamUs to get the basics. Missing at the age of 27, still currently 27 years old, Christopher R. Miller, a black African-American male standing at about 6 feet tall, weighing between 175 to 180 pounds. Date of last contact, November 19th, 2022. Circumstances of disappearance. Christopher Miller was last seen on November 19th, 2022, around 2:20 a.m. on Interstate 39/90 near Avalon Road after an attempted traffic stop. During the pursuit, Miller got into a crash and eventually exited the vehicle at the location provided and fled on foot. His family reported that they have not had contact with Miller since the incident, and he was listed as a missing person based on his home address in Madison, Wisconsin, about a 45-minute drive from this actual location, and in a different jurisdiction. Now, we have talked on the channel here about it just seems to vary from state to state. Some areas will have the missing persons report need to be filed where the person actually went missing. Other ones roll it back to the hometown. In this particular instance, it's troubling because if we are talking about a worst case situation and his remains are out there waiting to be discovered, how is that going to happen with a police force that doesn't have jurisdiction in that area? Like there's just no chance of it happening outside of someone from the public comes walking along, notices something off, and then calls in the authorities. So it is interesting to me that, especially because his last interaction is with law enforcement literally chasing him, how does that jurisdiction get moved like that? We'll see if we can find some comments and try to make sense of that as we're pushing forward here. Rock County Sheriff's Office, in collaboration with the Wisconsin State Patrol and the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, searched the area for Miller. After an extensive search of the area, including fixed-wing airplanes, canines, drones, UDVs or ATVs, utility vehicles or all-terrain vehicles, and personnel searching on foot, Miller has still not been located. So troubling, and already just to hear, we've got a lot of different departments, which, you know, if this was a person that went missing in the wilderness, in a national park or something like that, you hear about this, like a bunch of different organizations will collaborate on search efforts. This is pretty much farmland from what I can see. But having all these different departments, and then of course having his case actually handled by a separate department that has no jurisdiction here, really causes a lot of frustration and confusion for the family. Even just trying to find basic information about what's going on with this case, and are people really searching? Let me just run some audio for you guys. A phone call from his mother, Tammy, trying to figure out some things, and then follow that up with a call from his fiance, also trying to figure out what exactly is going on.
My name is Tammy James. I'm calling because they're supposed to be doing a search for my son, Christopher Miller. I haven't had any updates. I haven't heard from anyone. I just wanted to know what is it. I need an update of what's going on.
We don't have any updates. I recommend you call Madison Police Department, since that is who is handling.
No, that's not what Deputy Cliff told me and the other patrol. They didn't tell me that Madison was looking for him. They supposed to. I just called the sheriff's office. They said they gave me you guys' number. They can have him as a missing person, but they're not doing the search because he wasn't in Madison, Wisconsin. He was in Rock County.
Okay.
That was where he was last seen.
Well, if Madison Police needs assistance with the matter, they will get a hold of us, but we don't have any updates as of yet.
Who do I need to? Can I speak to someone else, please?
What, like another dispatcher or?
Supervisor, because they just gave me this number right here.
Dispatcher?
Someone that can give me some more information, because I just got this number from the sheriff's office. He gave me the number that you are supposed to be conducting the search.
I'm not aware of any searches being taking place.
Okay.
How can I help you?
Hi there. My name is Mallory Durst, and I am actually calling. We may have talked to you earlier regarding a missing person and an accident that happened.
Yep. Are you with Tammy?
Yeah, well, I'm not. She's next to me in a different car.
Okay.
But
I've got the call here in my hand, and I talked to my duty sergeant. He said he talked to you this morning. We do not have him in custody. After he wrecked the car, he took off on foot, and we haven't seen him since. We couldn't find him.
So I'm just concerned that he's possibly like dead in a field or outside, like deceased somewhere.
Okay.
Like, I understand that he ran from the scene and that was wrong, but like we are very concerned about his safety. It's not like him to not get in touch with anyone. Well, he knows his mom.
He doesn't have a phone. We've got his phone.
Right. But if he would have gotten to like a building and was able to borrow a phone, he would have known a phone number to call.
Okay. Well, I don't have the means to start looking for him. So my suggestion to you is, since most of this happened off the interstate, I would say call Rock County and ask them if they can, if they can provide you some way of looking for him.
Right.
Because I've got single car coverage all night long. So I can't just start pulling people off the interstate.
No, I understand that. I'm just kind of pulling from wherever just because.
I understand.
Now, there is even more tape available. We'll have a link to their Facebook page down below. It's a private group. You are going to have to join it, fill out a little questionnaire. Basically, they're trying to make sure that people that are part of the group are being helpful to the cause. If you do get in that group, there are several other tapes that they have gotten hold of. Some of it is communication within law enforcement themselves. And it seems a little troubling. There's a lot of kind of misunderstood information being sent back and forth. I'm pretty sure I hear one dispatcher in particular basically tell one of his family members, yes, we're looking, and then talk to someone she's working with and say, I don't know why they keep thinking that we're searching for him. It's pretty frustrating. I can't really imagine how the family must feel about hearing all that kind of conflicting information. And I'm going to highlight a couple of other points here. Just because in terms of possible outcomes here, I think that it is something that should be considered, but I'm not going to lean into that stuff too much. If you do want to hear all of that audio, please do join that Facebook group. Link is in the description box down below, but we need to finish up the NamUs profile here. He has black hair, brown eyes. He does have a scar on his thumb. Doesn't say which side. He has a tattoo of the name Tammy, his mother's name, with stars underneath on his chest. In terms of clothing, he was last seen wearing a black hat, black jogging suit, and black and gray Nike Air Max shoes. Now, I have been in contact with his fiancee, Mallory, and quite honestly, a lot of the coverage I'm seeing on this case isn't really talking about who Christopher is as a person. So that was one of the things I wanted to learn. Mallory told me, first of all, he's a father of 3 currently with 1 on the way. So he has 1 toddler with Mallory that is 20 months old, and they're expecting a girl in May of 2023. He does have 2 other children with another woman, 1 boy and 1 girl. He loves to work on cars in his free time. Apparently, he's always working on his Mazda, and of course, loves listening to music, but rap in particular. Some of his favorite artists are Louis Ray, Dame Dot, ESTG, and Jug Harden. He is always working on that Mazda and loves watching sports, loves the Chicago Bears, and to play Madden and Call of Duty on his PS4. She says his kids and family are everything to him. He is a great dad and a wonderful fiance. Now, I also asked her what happened leading up to the disappearance. Why was he in Illinois? What was going on around all that? She says he left Madison early afternoon on the 18th when I got home from work to go to Rockford to get his brother from his mom's. And then they went to Chicago to get his nephew, which was his brother's son. They then came back to his mom's in Rockford to hang out and play some games. He left there around 1:45 or 2 a.m. to come back to their place in Madison when all of this happened. She says, I last talked to him around 11 p.m. and fell asleep, and then she woke up to state patrol at her door at 3:30 a.m. In terms of where he fled the vehicle on foot, she says he's not familiar with Janesville at all. And maybe he stopped there for gas once or twice on his way back from his mom's, but outside of that, she doesn't know him to hang out there. He doesn't know anyone there. So the situation with the vehicle, I was just wondering, like, if he's stopping there, where's he trying to run off to? Is there any potential place he could be heading for? He's just not familiar with this area. So it was really more of a matter of he was trying to get away from the police. And he does have charges that were part of this night, as we can see here at WKOW.com. Speeding on the freeway. They're saying reckless driving and endangering public safety, which I believe happened from the pursuit that happened after they tried to pull him over on a traffic violation, likely just for the speeding. It does say possess open intoxicants in a motor vehicle. So what I'm assuming is they must have found something in the vehicle. I don't know if it was alcohol. I don't know if it was something else. Failure of operator to notify police of accident. I don't know why that charge is even in there. I mean, obviously, if he's running away from the scene, he's not going to notify them of the accident. And they're also saying here that his license might have not been valid. So yes, we have a number of charges. Yes, we have a dangerous situation that happens on the freeway. But outside of all that, we have a man that goes missing. And it just kind of raises this question of, okay, if you've had this type of interaction with this person, you're trying to pull them over, they get you in a high-speed chase, we're going to see a little clip of footage and you're going to hear the officer sounds like, I don't want to say he sounds like he's angry or agitated. I know they're trained to actually use their voice in certain ways, in certain situations. But to think of, your emotions can be running high around all this, and then the guy goes and takes off on foot. I think, of course, it leaves us all with a question of, could something have happened after that? Could they have caught up with him? Something along those lines. And while you might think of that and just kind of instantly dismiss it, there's actually a few little pieces of information that have come to the family that really make me think twice about it. Honestly, I wouldn't mention it to you guys unless I had some type of information that might support that. And I think it is worth talking about in this case, just because there's 2 particular things that we'll get to that touch on that. But let's continue with the news coverage before we get into all that. So the Wisconsin State Patrol reported that they attempted to stop a vehicle for speeding in Janesville around 2:20 on Saturday a.m. They said the driver crashed into a traffic light and continued driving until his car became disabled on Interstate 39/90 near Avalon Road. State Patrol said the driver then got out and ran away. They identified him as 27-year-old Christopher Miller of Fitchburg. His mom, Tammy James, says that she hasn't heard from her son since. That goes all the way up into 102 or 103 days after the fact now. I know him. He would have called, especially under the circumstances. She also says that her concerns are amplified by the fact that he was not wearing a jacket at the time of the incident, and she doesn't know if he was injured. Now, based on some of those calls that I heard, it sounds like law enforcement is saying they did not notice anything in the car that would lead them to believe that he was injured. I mean, the guy hit a traffic light. I think and you should see the damage. We will see the damage to the car. It looks pretty severe. I think there's probably a pretty good chance that he was injured in some way, but they're not seeing anything obvious in terms of blood that was found in the car or anything like that. But Tammy points out it's been so cold these last couple of days, and he's basically out there without his winter coat. He's wearing, just kind of this Nike runner's outfit, and that's it. Temperatures on that night out there, they never get above freezing. And in particular, from midnight until somewhere around 6 a.m., it's 19 degrees. It is severely cold. Hypothermia, certainly something to be worried about in a case like this. Miller's fiance, Mallory Durst, said, "We just want to make sure he's safe and alive, period." The Wisconsin Department of Transportation reports that the Rock County Sheriff's Office is now leading the search for Miller with their assistance. So here, we already have a couple of handoffs that are happening. Admittedly, it sounds like it was, the patrol division, the Wisconsin State Patrol. They're probably responsible for highway safety. So them handing it off to Rock County certainly makes some sense. But there's also a local police department that's part of this jurisdiction. And none of them are Madison, the one that actually winds up with the case when it becomes an actual missing person investigation. Let's take a look at a map real quick just to get a little lay of the land in terms of where he went running off to. So here's East Avalon. From what I understand, he was heading back southbound. And we've got more detail on where the actual incident with the traffic light occurs. We'll draw all that up after. But just so you get a sense of what we're looking at here, somewhere around here, his car stops. He gets out and goes running across the freeway, heading east and south. So we've got this area called Ed Leach Farms. We've got another farm with a little homestead on it. That's another one. I mean, there is just nothing in this direction. There's no industrial buildings. We got a company called Aquatic Innovators. There's nothing. It's open land in all these directions. And I've spent some time in Wisconsin. It's usually fairly flat. It's not like there's even a lot of hills. I mean, look at this. Places to hide? Absolutely. I mean, just look at this, for instance. I mean, it could be near impossible to try to find him. And then when you're thinking about this happening at 2 a.m., this turns into a very, very difficult search. But even as we can see here in this farm area, there's some industrial type buildings and equipment. Was he going to head for something like that? I don't know. That's part of the challenge with this case, is understanding the intent of what are you trying to do? If he's literally just trying to flee from the cops, he could go running off in any direction. He could change directions out in the middle of here. He could find a ditch somewhere and lay down in it. I mean, who knows? Like there's so many different possibilities. But when it comes to structures he'd be looking for, lights he might be running towards, there's just not a whole lot out here. Channel3000.com reports, 2 days later, the sheriff's office received information from Miller's family that they have not had contact with Miller since the incident and that he could be missing, the release said. Authorities searched the area, but did not find Miller. Some of that kind of chatter I heard between law enforcement, between the dispatcher and one of their supervisors, made it sound like at some point there was a missing persons case that was opened in that particular area, but then they closed it and they weren't being exactly clear why they closed it. Maybe because it did get handed over to Madison. Just a lot of strangeness in this case. The Rock County Sheriff, Wisconsin State Patrol, and Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources began a search of the area with fixed-wing airplanes, drones, ATVs, and on-foot officers, but were unable to find a trace of him. Of course, basically just echoing what we heard over at the NamUs profile. A little over a week later, WKOW puts this out. Police need help finding Madison father missing for 9 days. I really, truly think that, I mean, based on what they saw, of course they thought he was on the run. But I think they were expecting him to pop back up within a few days. In that police communication I heard, it sounded like there was even a call to another area. Hey, can you go check out this house? Check out this house. Probably places where they thought he might be hiding out if he was hiding from law enforcement. None of that is panning out. And of course, here we are over 100 days later, and no one knows where he still is. I mean, is there a chance that he could still be running away from law enforcement? Maybe, but I think people close to him would tell you that's probably next to nothing right now, especially knowing the intense feelings that they're having to deal with, thinking about possibly the worst has happened in this case. It doesn't seem like something that he would put them through. Tammy James said, my heart is just heavy because it's like, am I dreaming? Am I going to wake up? You never want to be in a position that you can't protect your child. And I'm just thinking like, he hasn't eaten anything. He hasn't drunk anything. He hasn't taken a shower. And I'm just thinking like, what happened? He did not have a winter jacket. He's not familiar with the Janesville area and doesn't have any ties to Janesville. He didn't have his phone. Apparently his phone was left in his vehicle. So those were all the things that were very concerning to us from the beginning, said Mallory, his fiance. She talked about just checking his Facebook just to see if it was active. There's no activity that they've seen on any of that. James, his mother, said harsh realities are setting in after not hearing from her son on Thanksgiving. He loves the holidays. He loves my cooking. He loves to come over to eat. And so it was just not having him there. That was really hard for me. Of course, she still has questions. If he did flee, where did he go? Which way did he go? Madison Police Department spokesperson Stephanie Fryer said other agencies have covered an extensive ground search and multiple agencies have joined the search for Christopher Miller. Once again, we know they've used the drone. The drone stuff, I'm a little conflicted about as well, at least based on some of the recordings that I heard. It sounds like they used a drone on the night that he actually ran on foot. The family is actually now asking for, hey, can we have some proof of the drone stuff that you guys did? Can we just see some records that show that that actually happened, when it happened, how long you were out there searching? I don't know that they would necessarily release any footage or photos they have from the drone flights, but you know, if you show them a couple still shots and say, hey, we were out there for 6 hours, here's a few still shots from it, that would probably be enough for the family. Based on what I'm seeing, I don't think they've been given anything like that. So they're kind of just questioning, like, how intensive are these searches? Especially when it seems like maybe some people are operating under the presumption that he was actually just hiding out somewhere. The police department spokesperson, Stephanie Fryer, also said they've had multiple employees kind of just combing through the cornfields in that area. They spoke with homeowners in that area as well, which honestly is another possibility. You can see people are used to their space in Wisconsin out there. They've got these giant parcels of land where they're tending to the land. That's their private property. All of a sudden, some guy comes running up to your house or through your property. Is there potential for something else to have happened out there? Definitely. So that's just another concern that we have in all this as well. And then we get to the body and dash cam video, which they do release, and gives us a little bit of insight into what's actually occurred here. Let's go ahead and run it and see what we get from this.
Driver, put your hands out of the car! Turn the car off! Turn the car off! Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
So after watching that footage again, I thought he actually ran directly east, and I'm seeing other descriptions say that he did run east, but he looks like he's running south, at least in that footage. I don't know if the more complete footage gives us a little bit of a better view, but he kind of cuts east, but he doesn't go across all the lanes that I can see in that little clip. I don't know, maybe the other versions that I'm reading have better detail because they've seen a longer version of the video than we're seeing there. It doesn't change a whole lot except for search efforts. Like if we thought that he ran off east, you'd be looking on one side of the freeway. If he really just ran south, he could have cut back west and you would have to be looking on the other side of the freeway. So I'm a little curious just about what the details are on that. If I do get some firm details on that, I'll leave it in a comment that I'll post and then pin to the top of the comments down below, just so we can be clear about that. But it could affect your search efforts, not understanding exactly which direction he ran off in. But I'm sure his family at this point has probably searched both sides as much as they can, both sides of that highway. Of course, we're talking about private property here, and we know some landowners are not going to be as open as others, which I actually did hear from his fiance. After Miller ran off, the video shows backup arrive and officers search the area around Miller's car with flashlights. James believes they should have gone farther and looked harder because her son wasn't wearing a jacket, didn't have a phone, and was unfamiliar with the area. Because he fled, they disregarded his life, she said. It is interesting because in a lot of missing persons cases, if there's a threat to the actual person that has gone missing, that will sometimes escalate the efforts. Knowing that someone's running out in sub 30 degrees, lower than freezing temperatures, and they're not appropriately dressed, like, wouldn't that be enough to kind of escalate it just right off the bat? Outside of the fact that, hey, you've got this person that's running away from the law and you've got all these charges, but even outside of all that, just isn't there some reasonable assumption you can make that, hey, this is dangerous for this person? They've now run off into the middle of fields. It's 19 degrees out here. We need to find them. Let's get a helicopter up. Let's get a FLIR camera so that they could detect heat. And let's figure out where this guy is so we can bring him in. First of all, make sure he's safe. And then, if we want slap him with all these charges, then we can do that. Continuing at WKOW, we're just going to keep fighting day after day and coordinating our own searches and doing whatever we can to find him, said his fiancée. His mother said they're also offering a reward for any information about her son's whereabouts. We've got all kinds of different contact details down below. If you need to remain anonymous for some reason, you can. There's a website you can go to and put a tip in there. But also there's contact information for the family. If you want to remain anonymous and just send in an email, you could do that as well. So we've got all of those details down below. And from what I understand, the reward has been raised. It is now $7,500, I believe, for the reward. A missing persons report for Miller has been filed in Madison. We are hoping that by getting his image out there, someone may have information about his whereabouts and call us, said a spokesperson for the Madison Police Department. So the footage is released. The family sees it. What's their reaction? We actually get a comment from Mallory directly here. Footage has been released from State Patrol and they truly didn't do anything wrong aside from continuing to pursue him after he crashed, which we felt was dangerous at that point. We didn't get any footage of the search for him that evening, which involved Rock County and Janesville. We never saw use of drones or dogs in the footage that we received. That's what we're looking for next, and we're waiting to get official police reports back from Janesville Courthouse. Our goal still remains to find Chris, period. She then goes into thanking the Facebook community that was built up around this case, trying to help bring Chris home. If only you could have known him too. He's always smiling and joking. He never took life too seriously. He's spontaneous and carefree. He is caring, hardworking, thoughtful, and conscious about making life better for him and his children. He never leaves the house with a speck of cat hair or lint on him. He takes longer to get ready than me. His kids and family are everything to him. He's a good person, and he will always be remembered for that no matter what the outcome of this all is. We miss him terribly every day. So his family gets out there. They start their own searches. We have pictures of them here, searching far and wide, trying to find any sign of Chris. It's 30 days. Where's my son? Says Tammy James, his mother. I'm going to continue looking for my son. I want answers. I want to know what happened to him. After putting together their own searches for nearly 30 days, Miller's loved ones have traced and retraced any path near that exit at Avalon Road where he was last seen. Despite exhaustion and heartache, the people who love Chris Miller aren't giving up until he's found. If I happen to be up at 6 in the morning and I have to work the next day, I don't care, his mother said. I'm going to do whatever it takes for my son. I'm not giving up until my son is found. She's determined to make sure they're exhausting all explanations doing these searches. As they brave the elements, walking through woods, creeks, mud, and more, Miller's family is determined to do the best job they can. Over a month after his disappearance, we get news of some potential evidence that has been found. New evidence discovered. Let's see what this is. During a meeting with police, Tammy James said that she learned of a piece of clothing that may have been her son's, and it was found on a gate in the area. Captain Kelly Beckett with Madison Police Department's West District said the piece of clothing was found a fair distance from where Miller was last seen, but in the vicinity where he could have been on the run. Quote, something like this absolutely could have value, and we will be in touch with the crime lab to try to figure out if there's anything we can do with this small piece, Beckett said. But we also have to think, what will this tell us? You know, in terms of, will it tell us that he went that way? If there's any way that we're even able to trace it back to Christopher. It's a good question. I mean, who knows if there's some form of DNA or something on it that they could test. But even outside of that, I would think if it's, I don't know if we're talking about a piece of fabric. In one description I saw, it mentioned a string of fabric. I don't know if there's enough of a sample to check with the manufacturer. I mean, if we have a good sense of what type of outfit he's wearing, could they go to the manufacturer, have the fabric checked and say, you know, is this the same type of fabric? If it's, yes, it's a match for the type of fabric they use. Yes, it's a match for color. I think that's helpful information just in terms of, okay, he must have come this way, and at least it gives them some type of line from where his car was to where that location is, and maybe a sense of the direction he would have continued on past that. With the holidays almost here, remember, this is an article back from December, Miller's brother, Rashawn James, said worrying and wondering is not where they want to be. It's around the holiday season, and my brother loves the holiday, so for him to not say nothing is odd, you know, and it's just a whirlwind of emotion, said Rashawn. Beckett said police continue to follow up on leads and are asking people who live in the area Miller went missing to check their properties and sheds. She added that they are committing to supporting the family. And other law enforcement starts responding. One thing I do have to say about listening to all the tape that I heard of the family's communication is we've said frequently on the channel that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. They really prove that just by sheer force of contacting all these different agencies, having several people contact these agencies. It makes other phone calls happen within those agencies. There's one that actually calls back to Janesville and is trying to get them, like, get some update. Like, hey, this seems like it's your jurisdiction. Like, what's the update here? The family just wants an update. We're just trying to figure out what's going on. They're really doing everything they can to move this case forward, and they're doing the right things. It's just, of course, this is a tough case on the outset when you have someone that is trying to hide as part of their initial intent. And now you're wondering, did something happen to them beyond that? It makes it really, really tough. But Janesville police decide they're going to publicly release their records. Keep in mind, this is a high-speed chase going through multiple towns. So Janesville initially gets the call of like, hey, we're coming through. We could use some support. And then as they're en route, all of a sudden they're called again. Hey, we're not going to be in your town very much longer. Don't worry about it. So they have a little bit of a paper trail on this, but not a whole lot. And it actually doesn't even have Christopher's name in the report because it's literally just talking about the scene of this accident and the high-speed chase that happened around that. But NBC15.com, the Janesville Police Department is pushing back on allegations that law enforcement is withholding important information in the ongoing search for Christopher Miller. The police department released a statement saying it's received multiple open records requests, which it believes were linked to a Facebook post, one made by Miller's fiancée, Mallory Durst. Once again, squeaky wheel. As a matter of fact, I got several messages all on the same day asking that we cover this case. I'm pretty sure it was the same type of mechanism. It does work, guys. We need your help in flooding Rock County with records requests, as they still have not released pertinent info regarding their search efforts for Chris and their reports, she wrote in that post. In her post, she accused the county of claiming it has received only one open records request and claiming that wasn't true. Her post contained a link to an open records request for body and dash cam video, police reports, officer weapons logs, and other potential evidence, as well as the name of officers involved in the search for Miller. Someone really going after it here. The Janesville Police Department stated it combed through its records for Miller's name, but didn't find anything. Like I mentioned, his name actually isn't on the report. We have the whole report now, which we'll look at a little bit. JPD's post did find a report regarding a chase from the day Miller went missing and offered details of what it described as a minor accident or incident. The police department's statement indicated one of its officers was asked to aid in a Wisconsin State Patrol pursuit of a suspect in the city. Before the officer could engage the chase, however, the fleeing vehicle had left city limits. Sometime afterwards, according to the statement, an officer was dispatched to investigate a hit and run where the driver struck a traffic pole in Janesville before getting onto I-3990 and fleeing south. After the vehicle stopped and the driver took off on foot, a Janesville police officer responded to where the vehicle was located and took pictures of it. Let's see it. We've heard enough detail from there. So there is a full summary here. Basically, it just says all the same stuff that we heard. I have used it to kind of get a better sense of what happened in terms of how the chase started. And it starts, I believe, on the highway, but it's described as just north of Racine Street. So here's the area, Racine Street, kind of right in the middle of this blue line, but somewhere around here is where they start trying to pull him over. He comes up and gets off the highway, and this is the intersection where he hits the light pole. This is the intersection here, and this is the location. I think it's been rebuilt since this image was taken, but this is the approximate location of where that traffic light is that he hit. He then kind of comes around and then goes back on the freeway, going the other direction. Back on the highway the other direction. So that's what we have happening here. And then he continues until the car basically just isn't going to go anymore, which gets him all the way down to Avalon. So that's kind of the movement that we have on this case. And then from here, like I said, he either goes off east or he goes off south. He's in this general area on foot. This report also gives us some photos of the actual accident scene. So there you can see the highway overpass that we were just looking at. We can see the light knocked down, and then they also have pictures of his car. Left front tire completely gone. A lot of damage to the front of the vehicle. Continuing at CBS News, it's been nearly 2 months. Loved ones are confused why a police department 45 minutes away from the scene is in charge. James believes her son, who was raised in Chicago, was heading from her home in Rockford to his home in Madison the night that he went missing. Records the family received include a dispatch note saying, "State Patrol picked Christopher up." "What do you mean that you all picked him up?" she said. James said her quest for answers hasn't been easy because of 5 different agencies that are connected to this case. We've mentioned them before. And of course, now Madison police are in charge despite having no role in the chase. What is it with this dispatch note? Here's an actual screenshot of it. Officers' notes indicate State Patrol picked Christopher up. So this is one of the 2 things that just gives me a little bit of concern about something else potentially happening, them reconnecting with him in some way. The other thing is, someone is driving by this area and they witness something that makes them actually call into the dispatch, possibly trying to help an officer that they think might be wrestling with someone. Let's go ahead and give that a listen right now.
Hey, State, this is Rock with a transfer. It's going to be at the 178 eastbound. I have a caller who advised that they saw a trooper's vehicle out there. And then they see them in the field, and they just were just checking to make sure that they were okay. But I have the caller on the line here.
Okay.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so it was kind of weird. I went by, saw a reflective vest to the back right rear of the vehicle, kind of out in the field about 20 feet, and it was close to the ground, almost like he was, I don't know, wrestling with somebody, but, you know, it's dark, so I just thought maybe somebody should check on him.
Yeah, as far as we know, everything's okay out there. They were out in the field doing a search.
Okay.
But yeah, as far as we know, everything's okay, but I will check on them.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, I know these dispatch logs and, these events are all happening in real time. And I've looked into enough police records to know that sometimes you will have misinformation that's in there. It's perception. You're literally recording the perceptions as they're happening. The one thing I do want to note about this particular entry on the dispatch log is the next one. And it seems like it's a continuation of this one. So they're saying in this one, Dane County is calling. They advise their officer made contact with the mother. The officer's notes indicate State Patrol picked Christopher up. But then a few seconds later, Dane County would like a call back if this is not the case. So I think this might be one of those simple miscommunications. It might be an officer that was out there reported back, oh, I think they found him. I think they got him. And remember, we have multiple agencies that are all jumping in on this all of a sudden. Who knows if there was some cross-agency communication that went wrong, and that's how this winds up on here. But the guy calling because he thinks that someone is wrestling with someone on the ground, that's a little different. I don't quite know how to get my head around that. In terms of why is Madison Police Department now leading the investigation here, we do at least get a comment from Captain Kelly Beckett. Well, we made a judgment decision, I guess. Beckett of the Madison Police Department said somebody needed to be a point of contact between departments, and Madison is Miller's home. We just feel that we're in a good position right now with the family, hopefully to serve them best and keep hoping that new tips come in, Beckett said. The Rock County Sheriff's Office couldn't say why their notes indicated Miller was with the State Patrol, but confirmed Miller is not in custody. It seems like the more information the family gets, the more questions they wind up with. So they decide they're going to step things up a little more. Missing Madison man's family holds protest at State Patrol Station. Miller's fiancée, mother, father, and friends demanded that State Patrol officers sit down and discuss what happened the night he went missing. According to Miller's mother, Tammy, the Rock County Sheriff's Office sent their family their reports, but the family would also like a face-to-face meeting with all law enforcement agencies involved. I don't think anyone wants to take full responsibility for this, said Christopher Miller's father, Christopher Miller Sr. Everyone wants to say this agency has this and this agency has that. Just come together. If you don't have the resources or the manpower, reach out to other agencies like the FBI, the U.S. Marshal, and help us find our son. That's all we're asking them to do. Wisconsin State Patrol Sergeant Jason Holtz sent NBC 15 the following statement. He said, Wisconsin State Patrol has been in contact with Christopher Miller's family and was involved in an extensive air and ground search from the beginning, but we're not in charge of the ongoing investigation. If any further evidence turns up that may indicate his location, our team is available to assist other agencies as needed. It's kind of a perfect example of what Christopher Sr. was just mentioning. It's kind of this, hey, we did our job, we're not in lead, go talk to those other guys. And as a matter of fact, that even calls back to the dispatch calls that we heard earlier with the family. Everyone is just like, oh, that's not us, that's someone else. Yeah, but I was given your phone number from the other people. It's just this big web. If given the chance, Miller Sr. would like to ask officers why their pursuit of his son did not continue once he fled on foot. James, his mother, said Rock County reported that Wisconsin State Patrol officers mistook Miller for someone else. She would like to ask why this was included in one report but not the other. And if true, why did some officers mistake her son for someone else? I don't have enough details to really dive into that any further, but kind of interesting that if there is a mistaken identity like that, what were their feelings about the person that they mistook him for? Like, was that person wanted for other things? I don't know. I don't know if it changes the emotional complexity of what's going on during that car chase. Miller's mother, Tammy James, and brother Rashawn James said the toughest part is not knowing where Chris is. As the days go by and by, you start really getting worried, Tammy said. To go to bed is really hard for us, just to go to sleep. I'm always wondering, where are you? What could have happened? He's described as a jokester, loving father, and caring brother. Our mother taught us love and compassion, so we always say we love each other. We always hug each other and things of that nature. He's definitely a great person, his brother Rashawn said. Tammy simply hopes her son can come home, but she'll search for him forever. I just want him to know if he's out there, come home. Let somebody know that you're okay. His fiancée puts it simply, if you could please just share stories about him. We're just trying to keep his name and story in the public light. She certainly is. She has been very helpful in terms of me bringing all this information together for you guys today. Mallory, thank you so much for all your time. And once again, I'm sorry for having to pull you through all these details like this once again. But I wanted to be able to get the best, most complete picture of this case, and I couldn't have done that without your help, so thank you. There are places where you can show this family your support. There is a TikTok that has been set up at findchristophermiller, and there is, of course, the Facebook page I've mentioned a couple times. On top of that, there is a fundraiser running at GoFundMe for expenses to continue this search. On behalf of myself and my amazing supporters, we're going to make a donation to this just as soon as I'm done filming here today. And I can't do that without the help of several of you out there. Visit LordanArts.com to become a patron, donate through PayPal, buy merchandise, or just buy us a coffee like Ann Peters recently did. Also, a big thank you to new Patreon supporter, DB. Thank you so much for joining there. Please share this video with any friends and family you have in Wisconsin and Illinois. Let's keep exposure raised and keep those hearts, eyes, and ears open and looking for Christopher Miller. Have a nice weekend, everyone. We'll see you again here on Monday on the LordanArts channel.